Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's finally April, right? So we passed 1 year since the pandemic March milestone.
That is correct. Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We got a lot to talk about today. Nice to have my partner here where everybody's healthy and hope everybody else is healthy out there too. And I'll just say, I know I'll beat it to death, but the pandemic is not over. Still be careful, still be cautious, and let's get into some sports.
Just in case, people out there thought it might be. It's not.
I know. Well, they're opening up all the ballparks and full capacity, and the NFL's, looking forward to a full stadium.
Well, it's baby steps. I mean, the Yankees had 10,500 at the stadium. And but listen, it's progress. And,
it looked like it was 500 people when you think about an empty stadium.
But still, the thought went through me when I was watching it. But it was nice that there was people in there. So it's baby steps, and hopefully, it continues and we get back to a sense of normalcy in all aspects of society.
You bet. And listen, we're going to start off. I guess I have the monologue this week.
You do have the monologue this week.
All right. And the Sports with Mono and Mono policy is we don't talk politics. But this is a mix of politics, and it's a mix of sports and so forth. So the Major League Baseball decided to move the AllStar Game out of Atlanta. And again, it's in. Okay. However, this is a very, it's a topic that's difficult for us to talk about, and I don't want to mix politics with sports, but I just think again, it's based on the this new recent Georgia voting law, and again, it's politics, and politics to me is supposed to be interpretive, right? You take the policies that apparently the people we've elected support and so forth. But I just thought this was a big move for sports to say, we're not going to host the All-Star Game in Atlanta because of politics, and it drives me crazy. And I started to think about it, and I'm saying, well, okay, what about all of the businesses and restaurants in Atlanta that are no longer going to be able to have fans come to the game and so forth? And this year in particular, it was in Atlanta, and they were going to honor Henry Aaron, who we talked about, and his impact in Major League Baseball. I just want it to be, again, whatever this Georgia voting law is, should baseball, take this stand and have to move it to another city? It just drives me a little bit crazy, and but we get it in the way the impact of the NBA and the the social problems that have been going on and sports. Is this the right forum? Is it the right thing? I really don't know, but I just wanted to bring it up, saying I just thought it was a little. I don't even know what to say. It was a judgment by Major League Baseball to take the All-Star Game out of Atlanta, and I just don't know if everybody has all the facts and the impact. And Sports with Mono and Mono supports everybody's right to vote, and I just don't know if this is the forum. And that's my monologue for this week, Steve. What do you think?
No, I'm glad you brought it up because I do have an opinion on this. I don't think it's any more different than Deshaun Watson trying to force his way out of Houston prior to, obviously, all these lawsuits.
Which we've talked about a thousand times.
Listen, Mookie Betts came out and said, I'm not playing in Atlanta if the All-Star Game is in Atlanta. I think Manfred had to decide that are they going to have the All-Star Game and then have this as basically a player's protest, okay?
Which it kind of is, right? It's a protest.
And listen, so Manfred's in a tough spot there. To your point, I don't think it's fair to Atlanta, the fact that, again, it's a baseball game, for Christ's sakes, but it is a big forum for a voice of protest. And Major League Baseball couldn't have the All-Star Game, and then you have Mookie Betts, and you know the other top stars would have capitulated and not shown up. Yep. So now you have this farce, if you will, of a game. So
my point was, though, are we mixing politics
without question,
and sports, right? Isn't baseball about who scores the most runs in a 9-inning game?
It's all about politics in this particular case. It really is. And it's a shame because, like you said, Henry Aaron doesn't get recognized, have that weekend as, again, I mean, everybody knows of Henry Aaron and his impact and everything.
Outstanding.
Of course. The fact of the matter is, I'm not surprised that Major League Baseball had a cave to this, and we go from there. But politics is clearly at the center of this.
And isn't
move.
it a fine line? I mean, between the social world that we're dealing and sports. Is that the right forum to? But is it the only forum?
Well, again, I mean, it goes to the national anthem thing too. From Kaepernick and on and on. This is. As a professional sports player, you have this now forum, if you will, to be in the spotlight.
I know.
And whether your opinion is right or wrong, or whatever your stance is, Kaepernick, set the standard now, basically going forward by where the players are going to. This isn't going to be the last thing. And this is just going to continue throughout all sports.
But we've never dismissed the right to protest, right?
No,
we've supported that 100%.
Of course.
And we support the right for everybody to vote. But, whatever the laws are, that's what voting is all about. And change the policies. Change the people you put in who make the policies.
Yeah, but, it's not about politics, but let's be real. A lot of people don't vote. And that drives me crazy because they have the right to vote.
But some people vote who shouldn't have the right to vote because they didn't follow the process. That's
true.
all.
But my only basic tenet of this whole thing is
a
lot of people should start appreciating why you have the right to vote and take advantage of it.
That's a good point.
That's all.
That's
I'm
a good
trying to
point.
say.
So listen, we're going to move on to sports. So
what's going on this weekend?
There's a couple of things going on, actually. But if I want to first make sure that, our first segment is shout out to our sponsor, Coriano Trucking, Summerhill, New York.
Yes.
And we look forward. I spoke to the president of Coriano Trucking last week. He's, happy up there, and things are nice. And
he's all settled in from his big move?
Almost, doing a little home renovations and so forth until the big unveiling.
Right.
But we're looking forward to seeing the new estate, as we call it. We're still negotiating what the new name is going to be. Coriano Farms, something like that. And the president will make that decision because that's what the president does.
Yes.
Steve, let's move on. How about March Madness? You been watching any of that game?
Yeah, I think so. I caught a couple minutes of it.
It's been awesome, right? And we talked about it last week. It was so great to have it back. And we got a Final Four weekend.
That's right.
And let's talk about the matchups. And I got to give kudos to Steve. Undefeated season with the Gonzaga Zags.
Yeah.
They look tough to beat, I got to be honest.
Yeah, I'm still all in on them. They're just playing lights-out basketball. The closest anybody's come was early in the season. I think, I forget what team it was off the top of my head, but the closest anybody's come is 10 points to Gonzaga.
But we're on the precipice here of an undefeated season, which we haven't seen since Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers in 1976. It's unprecedented. Correct. But, I think I like it today. Let's talk about the matchup. The Gonzags against UCLA.
Nobody that I know had UCLA going to the Final Four because I certainly didn't. But the more you watch them, listen, they knocked off a pretty good Michigan team.
They did. That was one of my Final Four teams.
The game got off to a very slow start. I think it was like 2-0 or 4-2 for like the first 6 minutes. A lot of turnovers, but UCLA, to their credit, here they are. but they're facing Gonzaga.
And we were talking about it just before we came on the show. This is one of the biggest spreads in
It is the biggest
Final Four
spread.
history.
Yeah,
right?
it's 14 points. And
But you know my feelings on gambling and sports. But you know, if you want to talk about it, you know, I think UCLA. It's not the John Wooden UCLA. They don't have the dominant. Nobody. They were 11 seed, right?
yeah,
But they're there, and they
there.
beat my Michigan team by a couple points. And looking back on some of the Final Four games, the teams that have lost by a couple of points, what kills them? Free throws.
always.
Unbelievable, right? Alabama had, you know, that was one of my sleeper teams to make the Final Four. They were like 30% from the foul line. 30%.
Right.
Which is unbelievable.
That's Shaq numbers.
Exactly. Good
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Good reference.
So you deserve to lose.
Yeah.
Even though it went to overtime. Again, I'm giving UCLA all the credit in the world. Their coach is Mick Cronin.
Yeah.
I think he came from Cincinnati, if I remember correctly.
He did.
Because there's been a revolving door at UCLA
did.
for a while.
He's been there for a while. They've given him the keys to the
Well,
kingdom.
he's you know, he's got a premier job, and
His father's historically great college basketball player, coach kind of thing, right? He's his mentor. But this is a surprise. Final Four?
yeah, but I'm all in on Gonzaga. But as a betting guy, you know I do that on the side. Anytime you get 14 points, I have to take UCLA. Gonzaga's winning, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But from a betting perspective, anytime you get 14 points,
I'll
take 14 points.
And we'll get to let's talk about the other game too.
This
right?
is a really good matchup.
Right? This is the first time Houston's been there since Phi Slamma Jamma,
Yeah,
which, God,
1984.
how unbelievable were those teams,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it was great.
Akeem.
Oh, Clyde the
Yeah.
Clyde the Glide.
Guy
right?
Lewis, the coach.
Yeah. We talked about him because he passed away a couple of
Yeah.
years ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Michael Young was on that team.
He was, yeah.
Benny Anders, right?
Wow.
These guys were
Archives.
Yeah, these guys were good.
But they are good too,
No,
But
they're 28-3, and Baylor's 26-2.
Yeah.
But we've watched Baylor. I think Baylor will prevail. I think it'll be a tight game. Baylor's favored by 5 points. I'm taking Baylor. I think Baylor advances. I think Baylor is the second best team. I think Gonzaga obviously is.
Yeah,
the
they've
best
been 1-2 all year.
Yeah, but
pretty much.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll be surprised if Houston. Listen, they played Rutgers actually. I think in the first round, and Rutgers actually had a shot to beat them.
They did.
I think it was 63-60 was the final.
Very close.
But after that, Houston's really systematically taking everybody down along the way. But I just think Baylor is a little too much for them. And I'm going to go with Baylor, too.
Okay. Well, I'm going with Baylor, too, but I think that's going to be close. But I got to say, I'm in the back of my mind, I'm such a big fan of the 76 Indiana team that I don't want Gonzaga to win this game. But I think it's going to be the Zags and the Baylor Bears in the final. And you know what? It's not a foregone conclusion. We've seen this before, right? Undefeated teams, and they lose the final game, right?
Well, again, anybody that knows me, us, knows we revere Bobby Knight, especially that particular team.
Yep.
So, we talked about Ovechkin. We didn't want him to break Gretzky's record. But I like Gonzaga enough. I think their players are really good. Mark Few, I have no problem with them going undefeated. I would have had a problem with Jerry Tarkanian and UNLV going undefeated.
Exactly.
And Phi Slamma Jamma going undefeated.
Anything to do with Eddie Sutton,
Yeah. So I don't have an issue. I'm actually kind of, like I said, I mean, I called Gonzaga all year.
You did.
But
I gotta give you kudos
I
for
don't
that.
have a problem with Mark Few in this particular team going undefeated.
But let's make sure we get to where we think it's going to be. Gonzaga versus Baylor in the final.
We'll know tonight.
It's going to be close. It's going to be great.
Yep.
But, kudos to the NCAA for putting this back on.
And don't be surprised.
We missed it.
Yeah, but don't be surprised if Houston does, beat Baylor. I can't foresee UCLA beating Gonzaga.
And I think that's the only upset possibility in the Final Four.
Right.
So let's move on. How about the women's?
Yeah.
It's actually been awesome,
Yeah.
right? And first off is Paige Beckers, right? First freshman to win Player of the Year in women's college basketball.
That's a big accomplishment because, when you think of it, the Sue Birds and Diana Taurasi to
Rebecca Lobos.
to the Candace Parkers from Tennessee.
Oh, there's been great college women's basketball
really
players.
good ball players in the women's side. So that is a big thing, man. However,
here's the final.
The Huskies went down yesterday.
They got knocked off
to Arizona.
They shot only 30-some-odd% from the field, which was surprising, but...
you know what? I think it's a good thing. They are so young.
And that's what Gino...
They only have like 2 juniors, and everybody else is like a freshman.
But that's what Gino said. He goes, this is an immature team, and it's not the team that we normally put on the floor. They thought they could do it. When things didn't go their way, they kind of sulked a little bit. And listen,
they'll be back. I'm gonna count the win at least 2.
But how about the Arizona women's basketball team making the finals for the first time ever, first time Final Four? Awesome.
That's cool. No doubt.
And that was a great game in Stanford and South Carolina. It was down to the wire, and it was awesome.
UConn played Baylor in the regional final, and I don't know if you saw the end of that game.
I did.
That was a foul.
I know.
And, Baylor... But unfortunately, was it a blatant foul? I can see.
It was definitely a foul on the replay.
Right.
But,
so I can... Listen, it wasn't one of these really egregious calls, but Baylor had a really good year. And, listen, it's tough, though. I don't care, men's or women's, when you play hoops. To lose a game like that, it's tough. But them's are them apples.
But I got to give kudos. The women's tournament was actually outstanding. And this Paige Beckers was, a great player.
Yeah. And I brought up Jalen Suggs last week.
You did. Gonzaga. I was wondering if you were going to throw that back
but
at
they're
me.
the best of friends. They're both from Minnesota.
And they're talking about Jalen Suggs being one of the top 3 picks in the NBA draft, right? I think Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State is going to be.
I think Jalen Suggs is going to go top 10.
Yeah.
I would say top 10. I don't know about top 3. He's actually had, he had a couple, the last 2 games he's had a little bit of a
letdown.
Not a letdown, but the competition gets better. Let's just say I foresee Jalen Suggs having a great Final Four.
Okay, but it's been awesome. It's so happy to have the Final Four back in the mix.
Yeah.
But before we move on from college basketball,
but just real quick on the Final Four. What we did, we looked up who has the most Final Four appearances.
I know.
And I automatically assumed it was UCLA because they're back.
And my answer was Kentucky, and it wasn't.
So it's actually North Carolina with 20, UCLA 19.
And then we go. That's one of
Kentucky
those you go, oh, of course it's North Carolina, right? Dean Smith, Williams,
which that's why I brought it up. Is we have to acknowledge the retirement of Roy Williams.
That was my point. I was bringing
He's the only NCAA Division I coach with 400 wins at 2 schools.
At 2 D1 schools.
2 prominent, the best of the best. He's got 3 national titles. You can't say anything bad about Roy Williams.
And it caught me a little off guard. That was kind of a surprising announcement. I mean, yes, he's 70 years old, and we get it, but it was Roy Williams.
Yeah.
We thought they would have to carry him out in a straitjacket.
Actually, when I watched this North Carolina team this year, I'm not surprised. I think he's had it. His time has come. I think he,
And one of his...
It just seemed like a different North Carolina team without the, 2 or 3 leaders that you normally would have.
But one of his
I think
points...
he's washing his hands.
I think why he washed his hands, this one and done thing, it's not working out like it is for Kentucky, right? And he's got these guys, and Kessler, one of his top guys that he was going to build around,
right?
Decided that he's transferring. So it's crazy. But, Roy Williams, we worshipped him. And the big question is, who's going to be the next coach of North Carolina? That's a tough position to fill. right? Following in Dean Smith and Bill Guthridge's legacy.
Yeah, it won't be Bill Guthridge following, or Matt Doherty.
Or Matt Doherty, right?
Right.
But who do you think it's going to be?
I couldn't give you an answer right now. I have no idea who. It's going to be somebody prominent.
They like. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about Wes Miller. He played for North Carolina. He's the coach at UNC Greensboro right now. Or do they go the other path and say we got to take a prominent? Please just don't let it be Huggins.
Larry Brown. No, I'm kidding.
Dude,
he's 90.
I know. He's
How about Rick Pitino?
You know what? That would tarnish the Tar Heels' reputation forever.
Not happening.
And one other thing before we move on to Roy Williams, and we wish him the best in his retirement and so forth. The coach, Porter Moser from the Sister Jean School, Loyola.
Yeah.
He's actually going to take the Oklahoma job.
He should. The guy is a really good coach. I mentioned Loyola Chicago. I thought they'd make the Final Four a couple shows ago. I said I'm thoroughly impressed with this guy as a coach, and I think that's a great hire.
But I thought he would take the route saying, I'm gonna build Loyola Chicago into this promo.
Come on, you get a school like Oklahoma calling and the kind of money he's going to be getting, and that's a no-brainer. That's why they coach.
I guess. Moving up, they think it's, the next level.
Moving on up to the...
Oh, George! Anyway, so listen, enjoy the Final Four weekend. It's awesome, and we'll move on. Major League Baseball started. How about that?
That is correct.
Right, standard line, let's play two,
That's
right?
right.
Ernie Banks. Yanks lost their opener.
Yeah, they did.
Mets national game postponed for the weekend.
Because of
COVID.
But back to the New York Yankees. DJ's my man. I'm expecting DJ to go 3 for 5 today, but DJ
had a tough opening day.
Stanton and Judge combined offers basically.
Yep.
No production whatsoever.
Yep.
I expect that, as we broadcast now, it's sunny, it's 60 degrees out. Corey Kluber makes his debut for the Yankees today. Yep. But I got to think Stanton and Judge and DJ wake up today. And I like the Yankees to rebound today. But it was a very disappointing loss. Yep. Mike Tauchman comes in to run in the 9th inning. Steals second, steals third. They get first and third, one out. DJ hits a kind of a slow grounder to third. I had a debate with a bunch of people
about whether he should have made the break for the plate.
Yeah, people, and I get it. You run on contact, but I'm pretty knowledgeable about the game. Played it, not on that particular one because it wasn't hit hard enough. He didn't really have a lead. I preferred Tauchman did not bolt on that. But listen, Toronto then again. The 10th inning. What do?
They put a runner on second base. Like one of our listeners, James Walsh, and this has been a pet peeve of mine. It's not easy to get a runner to second base in extra innings,
no, you're right.
And it drives me crazy. But
Garrett Cole looked good. He gave up 2 runs. He gave him a homer, but 2 runs. And it was cold, windy. It was a really crappy day. But he looks.
Garrett Cole,
he's a horse.
I think he's he's the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, Rial for Toronto
Yep.
pitched the opener. He's pretty good, man.
Yep.
They got him from the Dodgers. This guy may have the best changeup in baseball. So Toronto was missing George Springer, who's day to day or whatever.
But it's not like season's over. There's only 162 games to play.
I wouldn't call for the Aaron Boone firing chance just yet.
Boone must go, right?
Boone must go.
But I wanted to talk about one other thing with Major League Baseball. Francisco Lindor and the Mets came to terms, right? Which we knew. We said 320, 380. We didn't know.
Yeah.
341.
Third highest in Major League history, behind Trout and Mookie Betts.
What's your thoughts on that? Do you think this guy is the cornerstone of a team?
Listen, we talked about Fernando.
His numbers are pretty good. I'm going to give you that.
I told you, this guy's a top 10 player. There's no question based on his productivity. I think it's, again, we talked about Cohen, who's got deep pockets. It had to be done. 10-year deal.
Highest payroll for the Mets, ever, of course.
God, of course, I would expect nothing less.
But they're throwing this money out, and I'm saying, Francisco Lindor, what's next? The next $500 million
Wow, nobody's
contract?
Listen, don't be surprised. Somebody's got.
What, Juan Soto in a year is not going to get that kind of money?
So top Mike Trout's production, whoever it may be in the next 5 years. Top Mike Trout's production of what he's done, and then we'll talk about giving you a little bit more than Mike Trout. I don't foresee anybody, topping what Trout has done for the last freaking 8-9 years. I mean, he is well deserved to be the highest paid player.
No question.
That's the market. That's what it is. And again, we talked about it with the quarterbacks in the NFL. Dak's making whatever. And when does that stop? How high is this ceiling going to go? $60 million a year for these guys?
That's it.
It has to stop at some point. When and what?
No, but that's what we thought it was going to stop at some point. But Tatis and now Lindor, right?
But it doesn't matter because the owners are making X amount of money, and if they can pay these guys this, then that's they're not paying them unless they got the coin to do it.
I get that, and you know what? The fact that Mike Trout is still the highest paid player, right? Biggest contract ever in baseball. The thing it's amazing to me, it just seemed like Mike Trout was a rookie a couple of years ago. This is his 10th year in Major League Baseball.
That's right.
And he just got his 800th RBI yesterday, right? So when we talk about all-time, you crack the 1,000 RBI milestone and so forth.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
No, Mike Trout is the real deal, man.
He is, but he's 10 years in.
Yeah.
And Albert Pujols hit another home run, so he's the compiler.
Oh, please. First ballot Hall of Famer.
Agreed.
I know.
Agreed.
It doesn't matter if Albert Pujols in the compiling debate.
What's he going to hit? 17 home runs this year?
Probably.
I like him. Go to the Hall of Fame, retire, and
listen. He signed this ridiculous contract. He got a 10-year deal back 10 years ago. I
know.
What is it?
He's leaving the Cardinals.
He's making $25 million a year.
Yep.
He's not leaving until he gets every cent of it.
But it's so awesome to have baseball back, and
But you know what was actually refreshing on opening day? I want to congratulate the Oakland A's fans. Because they really got on the Astros about the side stealing scandal.
Oh, are we still milking this cow?
But the point is, the fans of Oakland, and if they're doing it in Oakland, breaking their balls, it's just going to be every city now go on.
It's been going on for 2 years.
Yeah, but we didn't play last year by where there were fans to. Houston was thinking people are going to forget this. They're gonna get razzed. And I still think the Major League Baseball players haven't forgot either. So, the high spikes and things like that, I'm telling you, there'll be some...
Right.
I'm just saying.
And you wonder what
the retribution is not over.
And you wonder what the retribution in the Toronto Blue Jays, right? They signed George Springer. I mean, are they going to warm to this guy? Is he going to put up those numbers, or is it going to be a Jed Lowry kind of guy?
I think this is all going to be pointed at Houston.
Yeah.
That's it. So they have to get their comeuppance, right? The COVID, gave them a year off, and they were hoping people would forget. But, Alex Cora is back in the dugout with Boston.
AJ Finch in Detroit, right? The snowstorm opening day, Cabrera, right? It's just great to have baseball
back. Of course, it's back. And, again, let's hope... Texas had a full stadium, correct?
Full? I don't know.
Well, they allowed, anybody who wanted to go. So we'll see, from that petri dish,
I know.
what the ramifications of that are.
But wear your mask, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you go to the game. But baseball's back.
I have 2 hot dogs and 3 beers.
Excuse me, what'd you say? Can I have 2 hot dogs? But welcome back, Major League Baseball.
Yes.
Full season. Because I got to tell you that the 60-game season last year was
Again, of all the sports, that was the
least put it in the books kind of
the
thing.
least legit. But the Dodgers are still the world champs.
All right. So let's move on. And our next segment is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. Longtime sponsor. And again, hope all is well up in Connecticut. Hockey.
Hockey.
And I, in the back of my mind, Steve, you keep telling me that David Quinn is on the ropes for the Rangers and so forth, and I don't know.
He's going to finish the year, and that's it.
And I don't want to beat this to death, but the more I watch the Rangers, this Artemi Panarin, he is one of the best passing hockey players since Wayne Gretzky. And I really feel that way. I mean, he knows exactly what to do, and he does it. And the overtime win against against the Buffalo Sabres, who aren't a great team, but that was hockey, like back, forth, score, game over. He is one hell of a hockey player.
I'm a big Panarin fan. They beat the Capitals the other night. Panarin had, 3 or 4 points.
Yep.
But the Rangers, after we broadcast last week, played the Flyers Saturday.
Ran him out of Philly.
Zibanejad scores the first goal, and after that, they fall flat, so they lose to the Flyers. And Sunday, they play at noon last week, and boom, Ovechkin kills them again.
Yep.
So, the Rangers are, hovering around 500. It's just not enough. I think there's only like 20-something games left.
But listen, we're hockey fans first. We're talking about the Rangers because we watch them more than everybody else. But there was a great thing yesterday. Zdeno Chara, 44 years old, right? The guy's a giant. Heavyweight battle with Matt Martin from the Islanders. You know what? We don't advocate the violence, but Steve and I can. You know what? I can speak for myself.
It's like fighting Vladimir Klitschko,
right? Jerry Cooney, that kind of thing. But we always thought that was part of hockey. And,
of course.
The goal scoring and all that kind of stuff is great, but this was a heavyweight battle. It was awesome to see, and it was fun because that's what hockey players do. Yeah. They stick up for their teammates. Chara wasn't involved in this, but he went after the guy that was. Sure. It was fun to see. Yeah. Gotta say. Love the scraps. And
of course.
And before we move on with hockey, and I didn't know this, when I think about hockey in the most penalty minutes of all time, right? Wasn't it Tiger Williams or Probert?
Tiger Williams.
Whatever.
Probert was up there.
But here's a question. Which NHL player has had the most fights in NHL history? And my first thought was, Tiger Williams or Probert. Who was it? Take a guess, because I didn't get it.
No, I mean, it has to be somebody who played a long time, obviously.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily?
No.
All right, so just to throw a name out there.
And we have to decipher between penalty minutes, which meant game misconducts, and they took those minutes off. You're not going to be surprised.
Dave Schultz.
That was the logical question.
I know, because I knew that wasn't the correct
And
answer.
here it is, Ty Domi.
I was going to... the most fights?
Most fights.
Makes sense.
Right? So it was 5 and done, not like, fighting and then, climbing into the stands kind of thing. But it was Ty Domi.
That's a good trivia question. I enjoyed many Ty Domi bouts.
Oh, but the most anticipated fight in my life was Ty Domi and Probert, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it happened.
Or a Joey Kocur bout in his prime.
Right, but Domi and Probert, they dropped the puck, and you knew exactly what was going to happen. That was the famous scene of him.
Oh yeah,
putting on the belt.
Yeah, the heavyweight champion belt.
Ty Domi.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
So listen, there's a couple other things that are happening, and the Masters is happening.
Yes, it is.
How about that? It's a golf tournament down in Georgia or something,
I thought they
right?
just played that. Don't they play it in November every year?
So that's happening next weekend,
Yep.
right? First weekend in
Love it.
April.
Loving every minute of it.
Would you believe? Oh, Max.
Would you believe a Cub Scout troop with bow and arrows? No, we don't believe it. You're surrounded.
So listen, the Masters has happened. I'm going to give you a couple of thoughts on it. That's so awesome that it's back and we can see the azaleas and everything.
All right.
The pomp and circumstance.
We're calling Moragawa again.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I must say it's wide open, right?
Of course it
and
is.
we know Spieth and Thomas, these guys are playing great. DeChambeau. So it's wide open. And here's my 3 picks.
This guy Dustin Johnson could go back to back.
He's got a chance,
He's
right?
got more than a chance.
And now that he's won it, he's got a better
Thank
chance
you.
than.
Hello.
But here's my 3 picks. All right, and I know a couple of them are layups. DeChambeau's going to be there. We know that.
You're going with Steve Stricker, number 1.
No. Hey, listen, he's probably finished in the Masters top 10. More than.
There's no doubt.
Yep.
I think he's 54, 55.
But I do like the way Justin Thomas is playing. I feel he's hot. And I know Jordan Spieth is very hot, but I just don't think Spieth can cross that finish line. I'm looking the winner, Justin Thomas, for me. But I like DeChambeau. He's going to be there on Sunday afternoon, we know. And the sleeper, Scotty Scheffler. I mean, I know he lost his WGC against Billy Horschel last week.
Right.
But he's a guy that's on the precipice. I knew you were going to say, "Where's your
Ricky
Fowler?" And I've crossed that bridge. It didn't happen.
Oh.
But I like Scheffler to be one of my sleepers.
I'll go with Dustin back to back, and of course I never discount Mr. Koepka, even though he's been very quiet of late. But
the recently married Bruce.
Brooks Koepka, I tell you.
Yep.
I don't discount him.
But
And
I like
again,
I like Justin Thomas'
it's wide
chance
open.
this time.
It's wide open.
Of course
Patrick
it is.
Reed could he's won it.
He's won it.
So there's
And one of our loyal listeners, Jim Smith,
McIlroy could surprise.
I know, but that's like getting like Ricky Fowler.
No, I get
it's
it.
time
No.
for him to win a Masters, or he's not going to win
get
it.
it.
Kind
I
of
get
thing.
it.
But
It's
Matthew
wide open.
Fitzpatrick was one of our listener Jim Smith's pick,
Right.
Our sleeper. My sleeper is Scheffler, but I like Justin Thomas to win it.
Okay.
So awesome that it's going to be back where it belongs. The first week in April.
The
and
azaleas.
it makes a difference.
Of course it makes a difference.
And listen, we're going to talk about it next week, but the Kentucky Derby is in the forefront.
It's a month away.
And we can't talk about it right now because you never know what's going to happen. But I got some early picks, and we're going to talk about that next week.
Okay.
But it's great to have that, just like the Masters, back where it belongs, right? The first leg of the Derby.
Again, we're starting to get hopefully a sense of normality again in society, and let's hope the Kentucky Derby goes off as planned.
Yep.
Just like the Masters.
It's starting to feel normal, I guess, is what I'm...
Yeah, like I said earlier in the show, baby steps, which is good.
Hey, who's been more baby steps than me? No question.
Right.
So let's move on to our notable passings. And
Wait, I want to bring something up real quick.
All right, go ahead.
So I read an article this week about high school football, in particular Valdosta, Georgia, 24 state champions.
pretty
blah,
good.
blah, blah.
Pretty good high school program.
Nick Chubb is probably the latest pro. Valdosta High School in Georgia. A lot of our football fans would know that. However, there's a lot brewing on down there. They fired the coach. The races in play. There's lawsuits flying. One of the assistant coaches who's been there forever, actually, we started recording some conversations. So don't be surprised if it's going to come out very soon about Georgia and Alabama and so on and so forth, referring to funny money being paid to a lot of different players.
Oh, but this goes back to
I
SMU
know,
days.
I'm just
I mean,
saying.
you know.
We talked about, and you know, innocent till proven guilty. We revere Nick Saban. He's done it right, this, that, and the other thing. My only point is I'm going to watch this story, and don't be surprised if it makes some headlines, and we'll see.
What, the Alabama program you're talking specifically? Or?
Again, the recruits getting paid from $95,000 to $150,000, and there's a quarterback that came from California.
But this story's as old as Moses,
I know,
for God's sake.
but I'm saying Georgia, Alabama, right? They have the top recruiting classes for the last. And Clemson is mentioned in this. So
right, but then you got to think there's a popcorn trail to Dabo Sweeney.
All I'm saying is I'm monitoring the situation. That's all. All right. I found it a pretty interesting read.
Well, listen, you know, when we talk about recruiting in college sports and so forth, you know, the basketball.
It's no different than the booster gun. Come on down to my car dealership. I'll give you a Cadillac with some horns on it.
Oh, of course. It goes back to the U and so forth. But you're right. You know, Nick Saban in Alabama, you know, either he's got a great, you know, publicity guy because they've had the best college football team. And is there dirty laundry in the background? Well, probably.
You know what I found interesting? Real quick on this. So the coach came from Hoover, Alabama, which is another prominent, right?
High school program. Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, the coach was recorded by this guy, Nub Nelson. I'm just saying. The coach, when he was at Hoover, he said when the cops would do drug raids, right? And get all this cash.
They would get all the recruits out of there before it happened, right?
They would give the coach the money to get the recruits to.
I got it.
That type of thing. So that's all. There's smoke. We'll see if there's fire. I read it, and I wanted to bring it up, and I'm monitoring the situation.
Okay. And before we move on to our notable passings, I meant to squeeze this in. The U.S. soccer program, right, did not qualify for the Olympics. And I got to say, I wasn't sure. I said, that's surprising. I mean, wouldn't they want the USA in the Olympics? But one of my friends, Diego Cruz, you know, who's a very, very knowledgeable soccer guy, said the reason why is because all these young kids under 23 play for these teams over in Europe and so forth, and they didn't give them the rights to try out for the Olympics. They only give them like a free pass when they're trying out for the World Cup. So that's why the United States is not going to be represented.
All right, so we don't have to take this for what it is, like the biggest upset and that they didn't make it. Diego's saying that the talent was precluded from...
That's exactly right.
Like showing up for that.
That's exactly right.
Because it's about the World Cup anyway.
But I wanted to bring it up for our soccer fans out there.
Duly noted. Thank you, Diego, for that clarification.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cruz. And listen, now let's move on to the notable passings. And one, it's not even a sports figure. It's been a slow week. And Steve and I are very happy when it's a slow week in notable passings.
Yeah.
G. Gordon Liddy.
Oh, absolutely. That's great American.
Well, that's
subject to debate.
Major debate. You know.
That man could keep a secret, I can tell you that.
I mean, the debate could go all the way to the Supreme Court.
He could put his hand over flames and not even blink.
However, let me give my personal perspective on this, because I saw G. Gordon Liddy speak. I saw him give a lecture when I was a freshman in college. Yeah. And this is, 100 years ago. But he was articulate. He was funny. But he was shrewd. He was deceiving. Oh. You could put any adjective you want. But he was a prominent figure in the 1970s and early 80s.
The international spy game and all the Black Ops stuff.
He was the chief plumber.
He totally, absolutely was the chief plumber. Get Liddy and his guys on it.
Of one of the biggest scandals in United States history.
That's it.
But that's notable. to Sports with Mono
when
and Mono.
When I saw G. Gordon passed at 90,
Yep.
like I said,
But I did get
he's somebody who took his secrets to the grave.
But I did get to see him speak, and
That's
I sat
cool.
there, and it was exactly what I had hoped.
Yeah.
Articulate and
Absolutely.
evasive and so forth. But
Right.
he was 90 years old.
That was a great reference to Chief Plumber. Master Plumber.
Exactly. But wow, and we make light of it, but he was a prominent figure in the United
He
States.
could do 2 years standing on his head.
And he would.
He
Exactly.
would. He would.
I'll put those chains on. I'm
Hey,
not saying a
I'm
word.
telling you, but G. Gordon was, he served our country, and right or wrong, and
Yep.
your opinion of him, we're G. Gordon guys here.
But I did get to see him in person because, like I said, you got to see your enemy. I saw Joe Biden speak at Drew University a couple years ago.
When he could speak, huh?
And I said, things aren't going well here. But anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. And please, we would love your feedback. Send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. And we miss our loyal listeners who have been away, probably pandemic related.
Pandemic related.
But we wish everybody a happy Easter this weekend.
Absolutely. Happy Easter. Here comes Peter Cottontail hopping down the bunny trail.
Yeah.
Hippity hop, Easter's on its way.
May you get a rain shower of jelly beans.
That is correct.
All right? But thanks for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. And again, please send us an email, give us your thoughts, and enjoy your weekend. And look forward to catching up to you next weekend.
You bet. Talk to you next weekend. Have a great week, everybody.
Enjoy the Final Four.